Hello, you guys. It's been a while. I've been very busy. I have an ant problem. Georgia, the ants are bionic. I mean, they're black, they're little, but they're annoying because why do they want to be around my house? Anyway, so there's that. Then this yellow film pollen. Yeah, I guess it's making me choke and kind of not breathe well. So it took me a long time to rinse all that off and rinse it off all that furniture out there. Not all that, but the stuff on the front porch and then the back porch. Anyway, and then and usually if I get things, this is probably kind of bad. If I feel like God has put something in my mind, I will write it down. And when I'm in Texas in that little bitty room, there's not a lot to do when I'm out of that room or whatever. Here I'm all over the place, and I guess to just stop what I'm doing, or if I'm outside and write down what, you know, I haven't done it. I don't do it. But, uh, it's basically the same type of others that I talk about with faith. I'm even was just listening to this video and how they're calling it a first world country. I didn't realize that's how it's called. Where, yeah, it's the Western countries where we have everything. We don't need a lot of faith. And so this guy, it's called something God darn, I can't remember, but yes, Papa, I'm right here, Dadas. And hi, babies. He's saying that, so he's from Ukraine and from 9 siblings. And it's harder to exercise your faith in a first world country. So he said his brother would try to practice by not bringing his lunch. And so see, this is what I was saying the other day, where I don't know the proper term. It's not maybe really mixture. Maybe it's more like we're spoiled. Okay. So this video kind of, reminded me. So when in a third world country, the dead are raised, okay, they see limbs grow back. We've all heard of Reinhard Bonnke and the maybe other guy or somebody else. They just have more miracles because they are not leaning upon things that we don't even realize we're leaning upon. Right? So he's in a first world country. I don't know if all 9 siblings are, but the one brother, he said, would try to practice faith in a first world country. They left Ukraine like a long time ago, not during this, whatever's going on now. So he would not bring his lunch and just say, okay, God, I'm going to trust you to get me some lunch. Now, at first it sounded like he's tempting God, but I don't think so. I don't think that, and see, that's another thing about living in America or a first world country is we do have a lot of Bible. We do have a lot of pastors and preachers. We do have a lot of teachings. We do have a lot of religions, and we're all kind of mixed up with it. I know I have not tried in order to leave my roots. I've never tried that. But I've been to Church of Christ. My best friend, a 90-year-old lady, 90 something. She was Church of Christ. I've been to Lutheran. Just because usually it's friends. It's usually old people. I love old people. Anyway, so where was I? When we don't have faith because we don't realize, and then we have all these religions that are trying to teach us that I don't know of any, I'm not, maybe I don't listen to that garbage, but where miracles have ceased, no. Uh-uh. But see, then even within the sects, you have, well, like everybody loves Max Lucado. He is Church of Christ, y'all. Okay? Um, Church of Christ separated. They divided, just like the Baptist. I think there's Southern Baptist and then the other kind of Baptist. I'm from the Southern Baptist, very conservative, strict. Well, Church of Christ, they don't believe in instruments, so they all sing a cappella, and they all sing very well. So my best friend, Cleo is her name. She's dead now. She did die of dementia because the brain just forgets to tell your heart to beat, right? So she went to the Church of Christ that doesn't believe in the musical instruments. Okay. They're the ones that it was such an old church, then they all go home and they leave their Bibles in the pew. I'm like, you people, no wonder you're not growing and the whole church is old and they're dying off. And then when the last old person dies, okay, so Max Lucado is part of the Church of Christ that's split, where they're fine with music in the church. Now they're fine with that part of Church of Christ that doesn't believe in the music in the church, meaning the instruments. They aren't against instruments. They play instruments and stuff, some of them, and they listen to music. They just don't want it in the house of God. So America, I'm standing right here for a reason. I'm just so yeah. If we don't see miracles, it's because. But I had showed you my Jesus, and I was showing you this, and I totally am like ignoring the crown of thorns. I felt so bad after that. I'm like, oh yeah, just me, and my, blah, blah, blah. And then here's this crown of thorns. Okay, and then this Jesus, when my sister saw it, she was shopping, and she asked me, she's like, do you want this? And I said, yes. I knew the children were missing, but to me, that was a message of God. The rapture, the children are gone. Okay? Not just children as in baby children, as in us, his children. So that was a message to me. Now, this crown of thorns, I'm not sure if it is the type, because this bramble bush thing does grow in Texas somewhere. I got this from my boss, who did have an employee from years ago who was very crafty. So he would find these, and this was the last one left. So he, somewhere in Texas there, he found these, whatever kind of yikesy, spiky, wow, I've never seen. Now here in Georgia, I call it the devil's vine. It's very thorny. I got to dig it out of the trees sometimes. So these are very long. I don't know what kind this is, but he would twine it around and staple it somewhere like here. And then he'd sell these. So I just hated that I blew this off. I blew it off. I didn't show you because see how we get so conditioned to seeing things. We get, and then like my other sister stuff, this might be Catholic, but they just they like share with me Jesus they might like, which is nice. I mean, grateful for that. We in a first world country can become blind. Yeah, we can just become blind to these things. Like I was with that day, the crown of thorns and the Jesus, the children are raptured, that message. So, but again, I'm not going to say I have ADD or ADHD. I've never been diagnosed with that. My first husband actually, like years and years and years and years ago, he told me on the phone one day. I don't know, we would talk while he was at work. He told me one day, he goes, "Hey, I know what's wrong with you." I'm going to sit here. This is it's a folding chair I keep here in the middle of the kitchen floor. I got this from a lady, not this, the idea from a lady, but she had a lot of children and she needed to be in her kitchen a lot. So she had a rocking chair in her. Okay, well, my cats love this chair and my dog, it's his little tent. So it's his fort. That's why I have this tablecloth on top. Oh no, so where was I? I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue. Well, never mind then. So we were talking about, you know, getting acclimated. I think I was telling you a story about something. I'm so sorry. This is so bad. Oh yeah, ADD. Oh, he said, he goes, "I know what's wrong with you." And because, all my life, well, anyway, one time my mother told me, after the before and after the funny farm thing, I would say, "I'm crazy, I'm crazy, I'm crazy." I mean, literally, I meant that I'm crazy because I knew something was wrong. And she goes, "Stop saying you're crazy." She didn't go to church much. She was barely raised in church, but she knew the power of words and she got tired of me saying that. One time when we were younger, we were calling each other stupid, just for little stupid kids, not stupid kids, but bantering, and we thought it was cool, and one day she's like, "Stop saying that." And we were just like, "Okay." Okay. No big deal. No yelling, no nothing, no lecture. She's like, "Stop saying that." And we just stopped. We did it for, I guess, a few days, maybe. But um, so he said, "I know what's wrong with you. You have ADD." And he had heard a commercial where you can't keep a job, you can't keep friends, you can't this, you can't that, focus, blah, blah. And my days of dabbling in the street drugs for just a year off and on. One time I tried that stuff called SP Racer. You're, well, just speeding, okay? And get this, I was so calm on that, and I could think and I could focus and not have flitting thoughts flitting about and a million things running through my mind. Well, back then it was stress and terrible thoughts were running through my mind. Now it's just a lot of things, like maybe the Bible, what I'm going to do. I'll have like 5 different things going on in the house or something. Well, that stuff calmed me down, and I heard about the Ritalin, is basically that. And so I went to a doctor. I was like, "Oh, cool, yay." Depending on doctors. Well, I went to a doctor, and because you have to get diagnosed, and nothing ever really became of that. But anyway, the point is that, and that stuff can be trained, like in a child. You don't have to put them on drugs. I've seen it in churches. The hyper kid, they just force them to sit, I guess. And then I don't know. Anyway, so what I was also wanting to say about this rapture thing and this Left Behind. And yeah, it's a rapture doctrine. It's true. It is a true teaching. In my testimony, I had left the church because of not what the teacher explained, but from what I deducted from the scripture of Revelation, that if I'm not toeing the line, Back then it was about works. And that's another thing. Works, if you're doing works because you're trying to please God because you don't know how to please him or love him, then then that's a problem. You need to figure out that he loves you no matter what you are, how you are, and who you are. And there's grace. If you're going to be hard on yourself, that means you have no grace for other people either. Okay? And if you don't think you love him enough and you're trying to prove your love by works, then again, you're not understanding grace for yourself, much less how can you then give it to others. So this rapture, how I interpreted it, and then I left the church because I thought, well, I'll never be perfect. I might as well just live in the world. Well, then years later, my little sister goes to this church, Heavenly Metal Ministries. They're all Christian rock and acid rock, but before they were listening to the worldly stuff, and then they would now listen to the Christian massive metal crap. Well, it's not crap, okay? It helps some people. And I don't mean to call it crap. I'm sorry, God. But it isn't the best, okay? Because some of us get transformed instantly. Some of us don't. It's a journey. Well, even, I was in the world, and then that church evolved, and then they learned about the rapture, and even they, from what they read and studied and learned and evolved, they were saying the same thing I thought when I left the church at 18, that if I'm not, what I realize now is it is a relationship. It's fellowship with Jesus. Now, some people don't believe that you can get left behind if you are not in a relationship with Jesus. They say if you're saved, even if you're backslidden or lukewarm or living for yourself, you'll still get raptured. But to me, that doesn't make sense. But like I said, that's not what subject I'm on. I don't really know what subject I'm on, but I was just saying that because that the human spirit, if you are convicted of something, do not quench that convicting of the Holy Spirit with hyper grace. If he is convicting you of something, not condemnation, then you need to stop and say, God, am I hearing you? What are you saying? What am I thinking here that I feel that you're trying to tell me something about thus and so, or maybe it's not a specific subject, but yes, I don't remember why I was bringing that up, but I was thinking today how knowledge will increase. In the last days, knowledge will increase. Then it brought to my mind the verse, ever learning, but never coming to the knowledge of God in Christ Jesus is maybe how it says. But the point is that they're ever learning and never coming to the knowledge of the truth. Okay? Doesn't that remind you of all the religions? All this religious freedom, all of this all-inclusivity. Everybody's hungry for the truth, and they're not getting it. Whether they're looking in the government, secular or Christian, some of these Christians are looking to Trump, thinking he is That's all kinds of wrong already. That's black and white, easy to see. That's all kinds of wrong. But if you put anything before the imminence of Jesus Christ, that's wrong. Because in his Bible, he has said it for 2,000 years. Behold, I come quickly. Watch. Right? So for 2,000 years, yeah. You don't ever need to be planning this, planning that. Now, we live to be godly and a godly government and all this. But when you're a rapture believing, educated Christian, and that means it's always been the end of days. And sure, you need to get the guy in there, the right guy. But to go from looking for Jesus to now Trump is in, so, that means that means Jesus is going to tarry. That means Jesus wants Trump in for 4 more years. You are then putting Jesus' return. That's why you don't need to be looking for the Antichrist. You don't need to be looking for 3 days of darkness, which is heretical. You don't need to be looking for any sign, because in every generation, God has made it to look like it's it. Even though back then when there was no TV that existed, we didn't understand certain ones, but it's still sure. He made it look like it's gonna be it this time. But this time it is it. Okay, this time it is it. So, this increase of knowledge, this first world country where we have too many bells and whistles, too many fears, too many insecurities. This is another thing I wanted to go over was, I'll show you my favorite mug first. Don't tell me to keep calm. Keep calm, chive on. No, don't tell me to keep calm. I will not keep calm. Jesus is coming and we got stuff to do. I don't know. My hair looks like, I don't like wearing it down, but I have to sometimes, because the ponytail will make you bald if you keep pulling on your hair like that. But anyway, what was I saying? Sorry. So, too many bells and whistles, too many fears, because there's too much competition, too much of, oh, well, this is acceptable. See, we grow up unknowingly brainwashed what is socially acceptable and what is not. And it morphs and it gets more demons attached, and we grow up and we have loads of them swarming around, right? Okay, so I gave you those 2 verses. Right? Well, and yeah, God is going to take all this into account in these first world countries. But we can still try to exercise our faith. And what was the other one? Like, stop fearing about what the world fears about. But I can't think of any examples right now. But like, I wanted to also mention, so I don't go to a church, but I still tithe. And I've been doing this for years. There is a place in the Old Testament that says, if you don't live near a temple, now I know I live near plenty of churches, so this doesn't really apply, but it said in those days, if they don't live near a temple, they can go share, they can go find somebody and give back then it wasn't money, it was food and stuff. So you can go share that with another person. And so, yeah, I just take my tithe and I don't only give it to homeless, because we all know that the working class sometimes have a hard time. I also wanted to tell you about something else. Okay, God help me. Um, yeah, that person at Arby's or Chick-fil-A, they're not allowed to take tips. But Taco Bell, you don't know if they're, stressing out, like, am I going to be able to pay my da-da? So I tithe to these kind of people too. I try not to tithe I try not to eat too much fast food, but I try not to do it somewhere I frequent regularly, and then I'll just say, this is from Jesus. I would like to tip you. I used to not even say that. I would forget. But yeah, it is from Jesus. I used to also write on my money with a Sharpie, Jesus is coming. Look up, Jesus is coming. And then, let's see, what happened one time? I wrote, okay, anyway, never mind, because when you write on it too much, it won't go through the money machine. I don't know why I was using one of my own, that it was part of my tithe. Oh, that's what it was. Even when it wasn't my tithe, and I was using only cash before I got a checking account, because I had an Airbnb now and I needed a checking account. So I was using cash, and even on all my cash, when you hand it to the cashier in big black Sharpie, it said, look up, Jesus is coming. Sometimes people would stop and read it, and some people would chuckle. Some people would go, pff. Some people would roll their eyes, whatever. And then one time I tried to put it in one of those automatic money feeders to pay for your stuff, and it wouldn't take it because it was so marked up. So the manager had to come, and then so she read it. And then, but anyway, let's not forget people who act fine. Isn't that what the world teaches us? Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just fine. And they're not. They're not fine. Okay, they're not okay. And who do we think we are? We need to get over ourselves. Get over yourself already. I mean, are you really that dignified and important to where you can't look at somebody in the face and think they might have a problem right now, and they're just trying to hide it? Let me go ask them if everything's okay. Hey, look, are you okay? I just noticed, some people might look kind of down, but they normally look that way. Maybe they're always in a perpetual pity party and it's no big deal, meaning their problems are no big deal. They're just in a perpetual pity party. I don't know. But I'm talking about the ones that get overlooked. We all know when somebody obviously needs help, but there are many people out there where it is not obvious. I was one of them. I needed so much help. I would have never asked for money in a million years. I would have never told anybody I had any kind of problem at all. Oops. I'm almost done. I'll call them back. At Arby's one day, I asked them, I said, how many are here working? And she said, there's 3 of us. And they were always so sweet there. They're always very nice and everything. This was in Texas. And so I knew how much tithe I had. Because see, I will stack it up when I don't feel like God has given somebody. So it'll like accumulate. Well, I am like, God, I got to get rid of this because, it's his money. I don't want to hold on to it for a long, long time. It's his money. How would I like it if he withheld what I got? If it's his, I want to get it out. So it's usually not like super too long time. Then, so I had accumulated some 20s, I think. And then she said a 4th one was training, and I felt really bad because all I had was like 320s and 320s and 320s and something like that. So I'm like, $60 each, maybe, is what it was. And then this other fourth person popped. So listen, I handed the lady who at the drive-through the 320s, and I didn't roll them up. Usually they're rolled up, but because I was in a hurry and I was just pulling them out, they weren't folded up, rolled up or anything. And I stopped writing on my money, but I would again. I just guess I got lazy. Well, I handed her 320s and she looked down and saw it. She saw it coming at her and she's like, no, 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 no. Oh, no, no. I said, here, I want to tip you from Jesus. She's like, oh, no, no, no. Even before I started talking, she saw it coming at her and she's like, oh, no, no, no. And I'm like, yeah. And then I go, yeah. And here's more for your other two people. And she started screaming across the restaurant. I guess there was nobody really in there. And she's like, blah, blah, look at it, come here. She thought it was gold. I mean, she thought I like gave her like $5,000 or something. Well, then, so this other lady comes running over, and I'm at the drive-thru, and she pokes her head out, and she's like pulling her arms out at me in the car. You know, she's reaching for me like she wants to give me a hug or something. Because I said, here, I gave the whole wad to the one woman to divide it up. And I go, because there's a fourth person, whatever you guys want to do, whatever. So this other lady was saying, that came up, because that one lady was screaming at everybody, look, la, la. And then she came out, she's like, girl, I was, this is the ram in the bush. Now I've heard that, but I don't see how that correlates. But anyway, she goes, I know Jesus is my shepherd, girl. I was telling him just today, blah, blah, how am I going to blah, blah. You know, but see, on the intercom, they seemed so nice, not a care in the world. They love their job, right? But look, they were having a major meltdown. And then the other one, she came outside of the restaurant. She goes, I'm going to give you a hug. I'm going to give you a hug. I mean, they were going nuts. They were screaming, hooting, hollering, yelling, running all up in the place. And then she runs out. She couldn't squeeze between me and the wall, so I had to pull out a little bit. And then she mushed herself in my window and is hugging me. And I hugged her and kissed her. And I said, God will never fail you. And whatever I was saying. But I'm like, yeah, just God is pleased with your faith. I told her, I said, he'll always be there for us. He'll never let us down, even if it looks like he is. So, yes, God knew I needed to come here and give this because of you guys. So, let's not overlook people who act like they've got it together and they don't. Whether you're giving them a tithe or not, Paul and Peter, and they said, money have I none, but I have this. So, yes, we have prayer. And then what I wanted to also say when I was going over the vitamins is if anybody is taking anything oil, this is like oil, even though it says D3, it's omega. So if anybody is taking, I'll try to open them here. These kind. The gel. Anything, either it's flaxseed, fish oil, krill. What is the other one? Krill oil, that liver type oil. You must bite it, squeeze it in your mouth, and taste it. Okay? Promise me you'll do that, because it happened to me where, because you're swallowing it, how do you know it's not rancid? Whatever process they put it through, whatever shipping, if it's been in extreme heat or extreme something, and it's not shipped properly into the store. Who knows what it could be? And so I was taking it, I was trying it one time. And sometimes I'll try the cheap junk at the, store, like the whatever. And I'll kind of overdo it. And if I overdo it on the nasty stuff and I see a difference, then I'll know it's okay, right? It's doing something. If that made sense, okay? Like if you start getting a headache because you took two vitamins of that brand instead of one, and then you start getting a headache, you'll know it's potent, because if you overdose on vitamin A or vitamin E, which is stored, which is in that multivitamin, it will give you a headache. Your hair will also start to fall out if you're overdosing on vitamin A. Anyway, so this omega oil I had gotten, and I thought, I'm going to try this for my joints. Otherwise, I usually can't take anything from the sea. I like seaweed, fish oil. I have a congenital defect. I'll get like this bubble in my throat, bulging like I swallowed a golf ball. Then it'll shrink when I stop. Oh, also like green tea does that. It used to. So I stopped taking all that stuff. Well, I went ahead and thought, I'm going to try this again. It's been years and years and years ago. They had sucked it out, aspirated it and everything. It was just clear liquid. Well, one time I was taking the omega-3 again because everybody raves about it. And I tried it. And I was starting to feel really bad. I was getting sweats, okay? And I'm not menopausal. I don't have that I know of. So I started getting that. My joints started hurting, like in a different kind of hurt. And it dawned on me one day, probably God, he's like, why don't you test that? That's why it's important to try one thing at a time. He's like, that's the newest thing you're doing. What happened? I thought, I'm gonna stop using this. I'm gonna put it on my dog food. So I punctured it and I was gonna squeeze it. It was so rancid. So I was ingesting rancid fish oil, okay? Even this good grade from a doctor, you still need to check the expiration date, but even his trustworthy stuff that is very well made and very well done, and you don't know. So you just take it and you puncture it and squeeze some in your mouth. You'll know the difference. I don't care if, I don't like the taste of that. If you want to do flaxseed oil, I wouldn't recommend that. My mother did that a lot, but she had already gone through menopause. Flax seed is kind of known for messing with your hormones, and it could even actually send you into early menopause. But she did do flax oil, but she bought it in the bottle, liquid, like you would Crisco in the bottle. In the bottle, you stick it in the fridge, and she would squirt it on her food. See, that way you can taste, and and it doesn't. So if it's not rancid, you will know. Even if you don't like the taste, I don't like the taste of fish oil, I don't like the taste of this oil or that oil. It's not going to kill you to taste it. So just taste it, and it should taste like something normal. If you have a stinging type taste to it, if there's a stingy type taste to it, like it's kind of stingy in your mouth, it's rancid. And also it's going to leave a very bad taste in your mouth. So I wanted to just remind you of that. Also of the knots. Those knots, I said, they will not go away. So yeah, some of the knots you have are ancient. Okay, ancient. They might take a long time to get rid of, and that's okay. And then but you'll get new ones. Like me driving all this way, I've got some new ones, but my trunk doesn't work, so the cord to my machine is locked up in the trunk. But I can feel a knot right here. So you will have to maintain. Doesn't mean you have to do it every day or every whatever. It just means that you might acquire one here or there, and if you start feeling a little tight or whatever, it's, I don't know how knots happen, but I bet they start off with muscle spasms. You're not a muscle spasm. It's called, your muscle is seizing. When I went to a chiropractor, the muscles on either side of your spinal column, whatever those are called, he was pushing on them. He said, these muscles are seizing. And I go, seizing? How can you tell? He said, they're very hard. And I said, well, I just thought they were muscular, right? Maybe muscle memory, muscle from before. And he goes, no, they're seizing up. And you won't be able to tell. You know a muscle spasm, but when a muscle is seizing up, there are no signs. So your muscles right here, if they're seizing up, you won't know it. But I think that once that happens, they form a knot. Now, these slender muscles on either side of your spine, I don't think people can get knots in those muscles. So anyway, I wanted to remind you of that yes, you can always get a new knot. Like when I was saying I was a solid knot, it was probably true, because all the knots from the past that never got dealt with, and then you get new ones as you get older because you're trying to work around. You know, you sometimes may think you have a pinched nerve. It's not a pinched nerve. It's a freaking knot. It's a knot that is aggravating. It's strategically in a place where your muscle can't fully do something, and it's maybe hitting a nerve. I tell you, when I found this out and I got rid of all those old knots, things I thought were pinched nerves, things I thought were this root canal was bad, but neck pain, weird neck pain that I didn't know what it was, why it was there, anything. It was a knot. It all went away. Things that felt pinched nervish, sciatica. Yeah, you don't think this could affect your buttocks or your leg, but it kind of can. It kind of can. So this would, now I never really had sciatica. So anyway, now, I think that's all. I marked up my Bible meaning place marks, to tell you some like Bible verses, because I was all hung up on this, praying for my government, and I'm still not doing that really, but I think they're handed over to a reprobate mind, and then there was just a few. See, this is how I'm like, Jesus, but you said here this, but Jesus, you said that here, but Jesus, I was always doing that to him, because he's like, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Well, my neighbor's mean and cruel and wicked. And then I'm reading all these Psalms that say King David is angry at how he's being treated. So over the years, I have just gotten, I guess I've gotten kind of settled in my mind what things mean and how they are and how I think of, and it's just my way of life, because I've already discussed it all with him all those years ago. But it's hard to explain. I'm not really going to get into that anyway now. Now I can't find it. I wrote on here. Well, there's this one that's kind of my favorite. And there's really no way I can quote it. but they frameth mischief by a law. That's the King James. I like that version. But I'm saying, like, I mean, even the faith stuff, I have heard all kinds of, blab it, grab it, all that. And I analyze this stuff over with Jesus, and I pick it apart, and he tells me that this ain't right, that ain't right. And sometimes it takes me a while to be watching it, and I'm like, this isn't settling right. And then I'm like, what is this? And Jesus will tell me. I don't know what I did with it, but whatever, never mind. Maybe some other time I'll go over these, but I like these. Psalms is like every emotion you could ever have gone through or will go through. King David went through it. And almost every psalm you can find other places in the Bible that pertain to it. I mean, he was a godly man. He knew the Bible, so he is, that's his way of life. But yeah, okay, well, I guess this is all. I just think that in the last days, knowledge is going to increase. People are ever learning, but never coming to the knowledge, the truth. We're in a first world country where we can't really exercise faith. We have a lot of bells and whistles. We also have a lot of religious freedom, which may or may not. Some aren't religiously free. Some are religiously bound. Maybe religion is bad. I'm just saying, relationship. A lot of things coming against us that God does take that into account. But it doesn't mean we can just say, oh, well, it's not my fault. No, we still have to, pray and be in a relationship. And if you don't know how to pray, you start off with the Lord's Prayer, or just read your Bible and talk to him about anything on your mind. Anything. He can handle anything. Like if you say, Lord, I don't feel like it. I don't like this. I don't want it. I want it to be instant zap, zing, shazam. I don't want, that's kind of spoiled, I'll tell you right now. You probably don't want to say that. I'm just saying, if you want to say, Lord, I don't like how I get sleepy. So keep me awake, Lord. Keep me awake. And if you need a church or you want a church, say, Jesus, lead me to a church. Anything you question, catch yourself talking to yourself or questioning it in your own mind. I wonder if I should go to church. I wonder if I should blah, blah. I wonder this. I wonder. No, turn it into a conversation with Jesus. Say, Jesus, I wonder. I've just been wondering if about this or about that. Okay? So that's what that's what praying is. Yeah. So I'm going to get some coffee. I even bought a boombox thing, but I don't know how to do Wi-Fi. And I've got company coming Monday, my ex-husband. He's going to fix the trim on my chimney. That he's the one that did it, but he used cheap trim and it's rotted. He figured that we'll never stay in this house because he did that when we first bought it. He was like, I'm only buying this house I'm just going to use the cheap wood. I know that's what he did because he doesn't use cheap stuff. He'll buy the good stuff. Anyway, yeah, I still want to tell you guys about the miracle of the Airbnb. My house, I had to get it painted, and I saw a house, and I don't look at house colors, but that day, oh my goodness, I'm like, I guess they had just painted it because I never noticed it before, and it's around here where I walked my dog, and I'm like, that is a beautiful color. That is a beautiful house. That is. I was shocked at myself for noticing it and loving it. And I tried everything, and the house was empty, so I couldn't ask anybody what color that is. And I went through great lengths to get the color. Like a year or two later, when I didn't even know my house, then okay, so I wasn't even planning on painting my house. But I was like, if I were ever to paint my house, I would want that color. I love it. So anyway, I went through a lot to get that color. And I, not just looking at chips, it was the guy came out and he put it up against that house. He came out to that house. He put this little machine up there to calculate the color, Sherwin-Williams, and showing me the paint chips. Well, he even made the color, okay? And then last minute, he just made one. At the last minute, he showed me one other, and he held it up against the one he had just made. And I said, you know what? This is the one, the chip he showed me. I'm like, no, this is the one I like. No, I think. And he showed me the name. It was North Star. I'm like, yes, that's the color then. So this is the color now. It's kind of popular. So, here's my sign. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And then I love this. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Faith is perfection. This is just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became, and then I found a butterfly, so I put a butterfly in there. It was already dead. Okay, now see, the door is a different color, and then this is a different color, but they all three went together. This is called North Star, and get this. Then the shutters and the door are called, hold on, let me get this straight. This is called, okay, so like the shutters, see, it's called Let It Rain. This color is called Let It Rain. And I was even trying to find a different color for these instead of going with the chip. Okay, so, and then this, which he didn't do a good job, is chipping, and it's not that old. But if you put gray up to this, it will clash. If you put blue up to this, it'll clash. I never liked any color of blue home. I knew what I didn't like, but like I said, I never really think of those things. Well, but this is not blue, and I didn't want gray. Well, not that I was even thinking about it. So this is called North Star, and here's mine that I found that looks like a snowball maybe, but to me it was a star. Well, and the screen door was in my other dream, right? It's called Storm Clouds. Storm Clouds. North Star. I think this is Storm Clouds. And then this floor here is Let It Rain. Let it rain. Those are birth pains. Those are birth pains. Yeah. So, anyway, I need to paint this furniture here, but I had to hose everything down full of yellow. The door, the windows, I should probably, and then these, I had transplanted, when they were blooming. They were fully blooming, and then I went and transplanted them, so all the blooms fell off, and And so I bought fake flowers and I clipped them all over here because I was so upset that they all fell off. And they looked really nice. They were like 20 bucks and they were foamy, waterproof and fade proof. And there was 50 of them, so I put 25 on one and 25. And oh boy, they looked real. So many people thought, not so many people come over here, but I had a company, some guests were coming for the Airbnb. I'm like, these things got to be blooming. So I clipped them all on there, and the two women, get this, I've had guests before, but I was in Texas, and this was the first time I was here, and it was a mother-in-law and her daughter, and the daughter had her own cleaning business, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because who wants a cleaning lady staying at their house? And then I picked her brain. I'm like, oh yeah, how do you clean, da da da. And they were so nice. They were really fun, and hopefully I didn't bug them to death. They did leave a good review. They said that it was like old friends or visiting an old long lost friend that you hadn't seen in a while, and then you picked up where you left off or something like that. So, and of course, I talk about Jesus to everybody. They were here for the Vampire Diaries. So it's tricky. It's tricky. You've got to be accepting. You're not condemning, but you wait for an opportunity to, and like, it doesn't have to be all about, oh, but those are bad. You're just like, I mean, that's the only reason you get guests around here, is because of that garbage they play around here. So you then just, yeah, no, I don't watch that, and and then whatever, and then I find out she's suffered with severe anxiety, and I'm like, Jesus, and it gives you an opportunity, and yeah, anyway. Okay, you guys, well, God bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you and give you his peace. That's the Arianic blessing that I don't know by heart, but you can look it up. And bless you with signs, miracles, and wonders. Now, we know that miracles happen every day, right? But we don't have to feel all down in the dumps just because something extravagant didn't happen today from God's signs, miracles, and wonders. The fact that, this is why I try not to be spoiled. I try not to be spoiled, because there are people that haven't slept yet because they're in a dungeon in Gaza. There are people that still have shrapnel in their eye and they're still in that hell, okay? They don't eat. They don't get water or tea, their favorite things. They're cramped up in a ball, okay? So I never, ever, ever want to take any of my freedoms for granted. And like I said again, the children right now, as we speak, our little Christianese fluffy puffy stuff, encouragement, yeah, let's fight, fight, fight. Right now, there's a little child that can't fight. Right now, they're getting heinous things done to them. And I also thought, I want to tell anyone watching, if you're a child or if you are a prepubescent, maybe a young adult, if there's any kind of sexual abuse happening to you right now, please Google helpline for sexually abused. Okay, listen, Do not believe them if they tell you you're going to be in trouble. Do not believe them. Do not believe it's your fault. Do not believe it's your fault. It is not your fault. Do you hear me? Do not blame yourself. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. If you feel like you are too ugly or you are too bad because it's you feel like you let it happen, no. They sexualized you, okay? They sexualized you, and your body is its own thing, okay? If somebody is touching you or doing things, showing you things to your eyes, your brain tells your body to do something whether you want to or not. It's not your fault. Please tell somebody. I want to say tell a church, but I mean, most of the churches are good. Maybe like a very minuscule amount. If you go to a church ever and they try to touch you, again, it's not your fault. I don't care how many people have touched you and brought more and brought more. It's still not your fault. It's still not your fault. It's still not your fault. It's never ever going to be your fault. It's never your fault. Please call a number for help. Maybe you can Google it. For sexual abuse. I used to carry a bunch of numbers. I would write them on a piece of paper, a 1-800 number, and I would write it on several pieces of paper. And if I saw something suspicious, I was going to hand them out. I never had to. But I knew it was going on. And there are numbers out there, okay? Please find help. Please find help. And those of you who are afraid to ask for help, otherwise, like you need some emotional help, you need some money, please, like I was saying to us Christians, who do we think we are? Like we're too fancy schmancy and we're too proud. We can't lower ourselves to go talk to somebody like you who looks like you've got it all together and you don't, and you need somebody to come up to you and say, are you okay? Would you like me to pray for you for anything? And then they might act okay for a few minutes, like they can hide it for a while. You can't just get to know somebody in their dirt in 5 minutes, especially people that want to hide it. And not that I'm saying you need to dig it out of people. I'm just saying there's one person probably for you to help. At least one. It's not the whole world. Jesus isn't asking for us to help the whole world. It's not anything that's going to be overwhelming. And yeah, so we don't need to be spoiled. Jesus was humiliated. And the way I try to imagine that is because it's kind of hard maybe to wrap your mind around that. But imagine somebody who is really cool. And maybe it's your older brother, maybe it's your older sister, maybe it's somebody famous. Kim Kardashian. I don't know. Maybe it's somebody famous Christian wise, like, or, in the Christian scene. And they are very wise and they're very knowledgeable and they're very well respected and very well known. And then they got kidnapped, not kidnapped, but maybe they got beat up on the street, right? They're just walking around, and all of a sudden, a gang starts, I don't know, I'm probably not giving the right example, but, in other words, he was very well respected. Jesus was. He was teacher. His following respected him. And then to see them treat him that way with a chain around his neck, dragging him around like a dog, mocking him. Now, they already got a small taste of it while he was alive. They knew they weren't, we're going to be persecuted, right? And let me tell you another thing. If you're not being persecuted, you are not blessed. If you're not being persecuted for the name of Christ or for righteousness' sake, because as Christ, we're going to shine and ooze righteousness because it's our way of life, and it's the Holy Spirit shining. And he says, blessed are those who suffer. And I'm not saying constantly suffering, but I'm saying if you're constantly looking for a way out of suffering, you are trying to look for a way out of being blessed. And you better stop, because the only way to get blessed is to go through the suffering. So if you're not suffering for righteousness' sake, like I was at work, Patrick never persecuted me for talking about Jesus. I was persecuted for being decent, honest, upstanding human being, because he doesn't like those kind of human beings, because he's not, he'll act it, but in his private life with his wife and, at home, he changes. Well, never mind. I'm not going to get into this. I'm just saying, who do we think we are? If Jesus was humiliated, now he was humiliated his whole time walking on the earth, but he had to put up with a bunch, and he went through all that so we can be free, so that we can have eternal life and be set free here on this earth. We owe him everything. We owe him everything. And for us to be squeamish about, I don't want to look like a fool, I don't want to look like this. Well, they look like a freaking fool at a football game or at a concert. And that's normal. This is our normal. This is our normal. And I'm not saying go scare people away and scare them to death, but this world needs to start seeing that we are not afraid of looking crazy and being humiliated. Like me, for example, I would love to go into Walmart and start singing, "He arose." See, I can sing like that a little bit for a little while. He arose. Hallelujah. Cry. Well, I'd have to look the words up first, but see, I would love to go in there, hide behind something, and start belting that out, and everyone's looking around, where's that coming from? Wow, where's that coming from? Shoot, if I knew an instrument or drums, I'd just march around in Walmart beating the drums, singing. Probably. I would be like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So, I'm talking to myself. Yeah, I would be scared. Plus, I'd have to hide Benny, in the buggy. Yeah, I'm not talking about hiding like literally. I'm just saying get behind something. But yeah, how does that song go? And it's kind of an Easter song or a resurrection song. He arose. He arose. I don't know, but my voice is crying. But I haven't warmed up my voice, I was in vocal music, and you got to warm up your voice. But yes, I would just encourage all of us to examine our pride and put yourself in a scenario in your mind what you think would be embarrassing, like I just was explaining about Walmart, gave you that example. Or if you walked up to a stranger who, maybe they seem like they're in a rush, but they're really, probably going nuts in their mind. what would you do? Would you go help? Would you say something? Would you offer a prayer? Or is it to, and then ask yourself, why? Why are we embarrassed? It's the society, like I told you, we have mixture. It's the society that's made us feel, why are we going to listen to the world standard telling us standards of normal? Yeah, that's what I mean about a lot of us, even though we are holy, without even knowing it, we are brainwashed in some ways that are not right. But anyway, okay. God bless you guys with signs, miracles, and wonders in Jesus' name. Yes. Even if there aren't any that happen today, just not suffering, or even if you are suffering, just say, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. God turns it all. It's only going to be for a season, and then it'll be accomplished. And okay, so either way, good or bad, there's always something we can learn. Jesus is a teacher. What do teachers do? They give you lessons. They teach us lessons. So we're going to learn a lesson. Sometimes we'll never know what the lesson is about until we get to heaven. But it's okay, because he wanted us to go through the experience to understand what it feels like. Okay, love you guys.